back there so he can do his stuff.
No one up here?
No, we got everybody. Yeah, we got everybody else here. Thank you. Here. That goes there. There, that's me. What am I missing?
You right here?
What?
These extras, do you want them to go
They'll
there?
go out here, yeah, all these extras go out here somewhere. So, that can sit there. And, yeah, letters, extra for me. James,
How's it going?
how's it going? It must
Grassroots, are we ready to go live? That's my quote question right there. Okay, we are recording this, and I want to say this is a work session of the Basalt Council. What there are of us, thank you very much for coming. And tonight we are having a work session with our Green Team, which is a citizen committee that works very, very hard on heading Basalt in a straighter, greener direction than maybe it was before we had this committee. So before we even start at all, could you all introduce yourselves for the TV cameras? You Green Teams.
Well, I'll start. So I'm Sarah Jelny. I'm actually on the planning staff, but I'm kind of helping, guide the process today, the conversation today, and we'll hand it over to our members and some of our members and supporters of the Green Team.
So Sarah Gruen, I'm CORE's representative to the Green Team, and I've served on it for about 2 years now.
And I'm Mike Steiner. I am Holy Cross Energies representative, and I've been on the team for about 6-7 months.
Excellent.
My name's Doug Goldsmith. I'm the sales manager for Mountain Waste and Recycling Trash Company here in the Valley, and I've been on the team about 8 months.
Doug, was it?
Yeah, Doug
Okay.
Goldsmith.
Thank you so much.
We also, Dave Mullaney will be here. He's with the Rocky Mountain Institute, and he is finishing up a meeting, so he might be kind of running in hot. So we expect to see him shortly.
Okay, and I know that Auden has been sitting in on the meetings as well.
Correct.
Auden Schindler. Anybody else that we're missing?
Amanda?
Jerry, is he still?
Well, we do have quite a few other members, or a couple of other members and quite a few other supporters and friends of the Green Team who were unable to be here
If you
today.
have any real actual members, could you just name
Jerry
them?
Terwilliger would be another one of our, and I think that Dave and Doug are actually the core members.
Okay,
Mhm.
excellent.
And
All right.
Bill, as you mentioned, Amanda Poindexter does attend the meetings as well.
Correct.
All right, okay. So, do you want to intro the?
Right, so tonight we are here to update the council on the 2019 work plan and the budget that was allocated in 2018. So what you'll see in your packet is pretty much this was something that you saw during the 2018 discussion on the 2019 budget. We have pulled out some of the more key projects, and that's the document you've already seen, and what we've done is updated under each of those items. So we'd like to kind of kick this off and provide you with an update on how those initiatives are coming along, and then get any feedback we could from council. So we'll start with Doug.
Sure. I was going to talk about a couple of the projects that we have going. One of the things is an electric car charger for the town of Basalt. The town presently has, I believe, 2 level 2 stations. One level 2 station.
Right here, right?
Yeah, and we're going to be upgrading one. We'd like continuing the opportunity to upgrade to a level 3. The advantage of the level 3 is they charge a car in about half an hour, as opposed to 3 or 4 hours.
I actually read that. I read all of that.
Uh-huh.
That's makes a big difference.
We did receive the Charge Ahead grant for $30,000. We've been allocated, I believe, $20,000 from the town to finish that project. We will use a majority of those funds to finish the project. Wish we didn't need to, but certainly that will be a wonderful project. There is one in Aspen, and there's a couple down in Glenwood Springs. Every time I pass one, I see cars in them. The ones in Glenwood Springs, they have 4 or 5 Teslas. They're Tesla only. I've seen them completely full. So there is a great need for certainly fast charging to make it financially viable for people to use those kind of cars as they come visit the valley. Having one here in the city, from what I've seen, the level 3s at the Marriott is where they're at.
Yeah.
They draw people into there. People staying overnight or quick charges having a lunch here in Basalt because of the ability to use that level 3 station.
Yeah.
Will certainly bring the kind of people you want into town,
Yeah.
the environmentally conscious. We're also looking to add the photovoltaic panels to the pool. The pool has been identified as the largest municipal user of electricity and energy here in the town. By offsetting some of that need with photovoltaic panels, we hope to offset some of the need for the town.
Yeah, all the stuff that you guys are working on is super interesting, but it's strange that you should say this, because before I even read my packet, I was wondering when these electric cars were gonna get better. Because I want an electric car, but I do not want to mess around with, like, the charging stations. I mean, this is a technical question, maybe one of you knows it. Is it possible that some of the ability to suck electricity faster comes with the car, or is it all about the charging station?
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's, at Holy Cross, we're pushing the charging programs. We're working with the level 3, level 2 chargers. We're actually giving out free home chargers for our members, and we've already given out those, about 100 of those to our members, and feel free to look online and sign up for those. As far as the technology goes, really the level 3 is the quick 40 minutes, 30-minute charging. You know, the level 2 is really the 3 or 4 hour. The community or the commercial charging that you have here is, which you can install, is usually 3 to 4 hours. But really, as far as the technology goes, there's a lot more with the range of the cars, and that's been kind of the a stumbling block for a lot of folks is, okay, I can only drive at 100 miles. They're getting the range further along to 200, 250 miles and whatnot. But
I'm gonna wait, I hope that's okay.
quite all right.
All right, okay, I'm gonna wait.
You're supposed to be an example.
I know, I'm supposed to be an example.
Well, there is that annual, is it gonna be again, the annual
Bulk purchase.
bulk purchase of electric vehicles that was available last summer? There's some significant discounts to purchase at that window of opportunity.
That would be good for like municipal applications.
And there's also, just to make one more pitch, been some legislation passed at the state that has expanded the type and the models of electric vehicle and low emission vehicles that are sold here. So models that were once only available in California and other states that had adopted this more rigorous standard will soon be available here as well.
Oh, and thank you for joining us. Are you the one that had the meeting?
This
that
is
went-
Dave.
I am,
Just
yes.
introduce yourself for the public.
Yeah, sure. My name is Dave Mulaney. I work over at Rocky Mountain Institute, and I've been working with the Green Team for about a year and a half. I live in Old Snowmass and happy to be here.
Scary, the superstars on this committee. Okay, go ahead.
If you don't mind, if I just add one thing to the PV on the pool. So Green Team does have a meeting scheduled, or to be on schedule at the end of this month, working with the Parks, Open Space, and Trails Committee. We know that they have some proposed improvements to Albany Park and the pool over there, and so we are looking to make sure that the work that the Green Team is planning, the photovoltaic, is going to be, dovetailing with the timing and the plans and making sure everything's appropriate, so we're working together over there.
Okay, great.
All right, so the next project we're going to talk about is, last time we sat in front of you, we asked for a new line item in the Green Team budget, which was for large energy users. So we want to support carbon and energy savings, not only just in municipal facilities, but in large users across the community. We had a subcommittee meeting, and one of the buildings that we identified as a priority to focus on is actually this one. So as you know, we've done the lights, we've done air sealing and insulation, and as well as some of the other low-hanging fruit, but we really wanted to take it to that next level. So next up for this building is exploring fuel switching, going from gas heat to electric heat. This is called electrification, and it really is a key step in solving the climate crisis. So natural gas is a fossil fuel. It's always going to be a fossil fuel. But electricity, thanks to locally to Holy Cross Energy, can get cleaner and cleaner, and we're seeing that it is. So transferring our heating to electric will actually have a significant impact on carbon emissions. So we got the subcommittee together to brainstorm what this would look like. We brought in representatives from Holy Cross, from CORE, from Eagle County, Basalt facility staff, Basalt town staff, to do a walkthrough of these buildings and understand what this could look like, how heat pumps could take this old gas boiler and electrify the building. We released an RFP and got one response back. The response bid was about 300 times what we had anticipated. And I would say that at last night's meeting, we were all pretty disappointed to see that number, but also felt inspired because that's what we requested from you guys were funds where we could really make meaningful impact and take action and be an example and a leader. So it is a pilot project. We're working on finding solutions, and we still are committed to seeing how we can make town facilities use as little carbon and energy as possible. Next step is really going back to basics, bringing in a team of experts again and seeing how that approach would work. I know, Sarah, you were able to host Mitsubishi, one of the manufacturers of heat pumps, especially these cold climate heat pumps, was able to visit and do a walkthrough today. So I don't know if there's...
just at 4:20. So that was, yep.
New news.
Yeah.
So we
Hot off
do
the
have
press.
new news to share, and we'll get some updates. And he had some good suggestions for things that we may not have even thought of. So good things to bring back to the green team for discussion. So.
And that's our number one priority right now with the large energy users, but we are exploring energy audits at other facilities, considering one at the elementary school. But fully focused on electrifying town hall and being that example.
I have a question about those bids.
Yes.
They were so far off. Do you think that the net needed to be bigger or what?
We discussed that last
If you
night.
were that far off, you couldn't possibly be living under a rock.
Right? One of the things that we've seen is contractors are really busy, especially this time of year. So it is not the ideal time to be releasing bids. They don't quite have the time to respond to them. I know Sarah worked really hard to get the word out to a lot of the main mechanical contractors that work regionally. But potentially we do need to broaden the number of contractors bidding. We would really like to see, I think, a few more bids. One other consideration was, as we went through this RFP process and we're thinking about this new heating system, electrification was still the number one emphasis, but we started thinking more like, all right, well, how could we make this a really comfortable building? And so right now there's 3 heating zones, and this bid we received, they bid it with 14 different heating zones, so 14 different heads. And that could potentially have contributed to that higher price. Also with heat pumps, which really is a mature technology. Susan, you had one in your place in Florida, but they're used all around the world, but we haven't seen them too much in this climate zone.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of something that contractors are still, I would like to say that Basalt would be on the cutting edge for this climate zone. And so, yes, we want to get more bids. This totally blew out of the water what we were considering, but maybe not altogether surprising. So I know Core and Holy Cross both are doing a ton of work with contractors on heat pump education.
And there are still poor counties in this state and nearby states where they're not that busy and would die for this, and also have,
Yeah.
I'm sure, people who are technically qualified to do this. So, I mean, just a boring story that no one wants to hear, but when I built my house 25 years ago, we couldn't get a drywall crew, so I called my friend that worked in the building department in Lincoln, Nebraska, and brought a crew in from Lincoln for 1/10 of the price of the local drywall crews. So, I mean, I'm not saying call Lincoln, they have the answer. But I just think that asking for a good price here is like crazy.
Yeah, our contractors are busy.
We also thought about just kind of pulling back and reevaluating and kind of maybe tightening up at certain areas of our request. We had a little bit of you know, I guess deference to the person that was answering the bids, you know, what do you think is best in this and this, and we do want to know that. So it's very educational getting this bid. But we do want to kind of pull back, reevaluate before we decide to kind of charge ahead again.
But I hope that really is the answer.
Yeah.
All right.
Real quick, you said in that bid there, it was split, this is 3 zones now, is splitting to 14. Did you ask them to kind of reverse engineer it and take it back to lesser zones to see how much that decreased the bid, or was it still kind of?
That was an initial request, and so I think it was just missed somehow, because you know what we did want to see is, okay, what's the base walk-in, you know what I mean, how does it just get in, and then how do we start kind of increasing, maybe group a couple zones, and then, you know, hey, here's our Cadillac scenario where we all have our own zone, what does that look like? So, you know, the biggest and brightest. So we only got the maximum zones, so we'd love to see it scaled back and see what does that look like.
Well, we have that now because everyone has a heater under their desk.
Right. And that's what we're trying to get rid of.
Just kidding.
But don't you have that at RMI, a heater, like isn't each individual desk somewhat heated?
The chairs.
The chairs are a little bit, but mostly we just rely on the sunlight through the windows.
Right,
That's our
okay.
big thing. So we don't have a mechanical heating system.
Yeah.
Bill, what do you have? Questions or thoughts?
Just a bunch of comments, and thanks to all of you folks for contributing all your time and energy. I frankly was really glad to have been able to catch up with Amanda the other day, because it just so happened it came on the heels of another conversation about kind of where Basalt is and where Basalt could be, and the kinds of just empowerment I would love you guys to carry forward in helping us chart the future. And if you stick around, you'll hear a lot of praise heaped upon our great staff, led by Ryan, who has finished the blueprint that will help define our vision for the future. And that vision includes environment. And guess who the architects of that structure are going to be? It's going to be you guys. And so finding ways for you to help us look to the future 20 or 50 years down the road so that we are compliant with all of the best trends, so that we can help Holy Cross meet the 2025 and the 2050 objectives. I'd love to see us be a model, and that means I'd love to see you guys reaching out to your own institutions, the RMIs, the cores, the waste managements as well, because I am interested in the solid waste angle of environment as well, but really spearhead that whole initiative and bring back ideas that kind of make us distinguished in the valley, in the state, around the country. And, you know, that means capitalizing on the great institutions like RMI that are already here, this model building, and I would love to see us draw on everybody's expertise over there. I was over with Jamie earlier this week and spoke with Amory a little bit about where we are and where we're going and what would be great, and greater engagement between council and RMI, council through Green Team and RMI, and clearly, Dave, if you're sitting over there, that's a great asset. But then the others that come to mind are like Aspen Global Change Institute as well. You know, John has some incredible ideas for things that we can do that will help distinguish us. And they don't necessarily have to be expensive, they might take time. So that's where I want to encourage you to think big, think broadly, think in a visionary way, and bring us back your ideas, and hopefully we will be able to execute those. I'll provide you the resources to execute them.
Okay, and I just have one thing I don't want to forget, so if somebody could help us wrap with this, and that is the status of the formal committee structure, and is this one of the committees that is bona fide done
No.
via ordinance? I just want to hear the little recap on how that is going, and if chairs have been selected and all that.
No, we just kind of basically kind of put the Green Team on notice that we were that we needed to have a chair and a vice chair, and for them to be thinking about doing that appointment at an upcoming meeting. We needed a final copy of the bylaws, but we were kind of having scheduled for the next meeting to do that.
And then we want them to run through the bylaws, basically, and say, is this really what the mission should be? Is this really what the bylaws should look like? Because you've been working in the trenches on this stuff, so. Okay, I just want to make sure that was happening, because we have several committees and we just want to get them all up to speed and actually adopted by the council, so. Okay, you said you have another thing.
Well, it was just David was gonna make a couple of remarks
Okay.
on another project. I guess that's kind of like the wrap up then.
Okay.
Yeah, so the kind of final thing that's been on our radar as the green team is an e-waste recycling event, and that'd be like computers, TVs, cell phones, whatever, electronics, and the potential to partner with Carbondale to get an event like this going. And I would say one of the cool things about the approach here is that not only would it be recycling e-waste, but also through a partnership with the Ascendigo, it could be providing meaningful employment opportunities for people with autism through the Ascendigo organization. So the basic concept is we'd be working with a provider of e-waste services based out of Denver, Blue Star Recyclers, and getting together with Carbondale, holding a joint event to gather all this stuff together and then send it off to Blue Star for actual recycling process. Current status there is our other work has been a little bit higher prioritized right now. This heat pump stuff, the heavy users of electricity stuff, but we're putting together a subcommittee to look specifically at this work stream, and we're trying to figure out how to do it with Carbondale, just like the pure logistics of it. Where will it be? Where will we collect the waste? Will it be in Carbondale? Will it be in Basalt? Is that going to change every year? And then also to reach out to the recycling company and get bids around it. It's something that we haven't tackled yet, but I think we're going to look to pick it up in the next couple of months.
I can remember us doing that a couple times. It's huge fun.
I think it's great.
Yeah. Hi, Gary.
Hello. You want me to
Yes,
mention
yes,
something?
I forgot, Mike, yeah.
Oh,
yes,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm
The most
easily
importantly-
forgettable.
No, 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 save the most important for last.
Don't say that, Mike.
Yeah, on behalf of Holy Cross, we want to thank the town of Basalt for participating in our renewable energy purchase program. As hopefully all of you have read in some of our press releases, we have very ambitious renewable and carbon reduction goals. Those are 70% renewable power supply, 70% carbon reduction by 2030. With some market conditions, we're able to make that happen, that 70% by, hopefully, by 2021. We think we're going to hit those targets well before 2030. And the town has committed to participate in our renewable energy purchase program, which will go on next month's bill, and that's for all the town accounts, and you'll be participating in our solar purchase program. So that helps us, and several other communities are buying in. We're getting great participation, and that really can help us for local projects, more energy efficiency work, and really getting to that next, the 70% we got done, but I know everybody wants to get to that 100%, and that's really helping us. So I want to thank you for that, and that'll be seen on next month's statement. So thank you.
Thank you guys for pushing that initiative. It's awesome.
Just add a comment on that note.
Sure.
I think it's wonderful what you're doing to electrify and degasify and do all of that stuff. One of the comments that I've raised with others that I'd love to raise with you too would be to request that you guys look at our regs and ordinances and see what could be removed to incentivize or make it less onerous for folks to do the things that we want them to do. And so my specific experience, we have a little HOA, 4 houses up on the hill here above Old Town, and we wanted to link them all together with a single grid, and we couldn't do it. And I don't know why not, whether it was a Holy Cross policy or whether it was a state policy or a federal policy, but we couldn't get all 4 houses on the same array.
Kind of for a solar array?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, perhaps this is a challenge or a mountain too high, but if there's any way that we could look to make that possible, to facilitate it, to remove the obstacle, that would be super cool, because there may be other houses that want to do similar things.
Yeah, was that recently?
About a year ago.
About a year ago? Okay.
Yeah.
Bill,
And-
I'll follow up with you, I'd like to, at some point on that, and let me check with my
That would be super
because
cool.
we want to hear back from you, and that's kind of our
Yeah.
mission. One of
And I
our-
didn't get the impression it was a Holy Cross
Yeah.
thing. I thought it was
Right.
like a National Energy Regulatory Commission thing or
Sure,
whatever.
okay.
But
I'd love to explore it
we
a
can
little
send
bit.
letters.
You bet.
Oh, yeah. I think Bill has hit, on a really good point here, and maybe that's something you know, not to pass this off to someone else, but something that one of your groups could take on, like RMI or someone, because it's a code thing. It's the restrictions that are innate in the laws,
Yeah.
basically. So, I mean, and I don't know that you have the bandwidth as a committee to fall deep into that, but maybe of your own organization, somebody could help us with that, because I think, you know, if we don't fix that, it's not gonna get better real quick, because we're not encouraging necessarily, and we're so much better than we were 20 years ago, like our green building codes and things like that, but I'm sure there's holes in the paperwork, so.
The other possibility too, we have an even friendlier governor now than we have had in the past. And with no particular insight, it does sound like there's gonna be a lot more cash sloshing around for environmental stuff. So if you see opportunities to apply for grants, bring it up, let us know, and we can throw the, you know, kind of the good faith and support of the town behind you, because it ultimately benefits us in the valley anyway.
Right.
Did you not offer any money in there?
I offered our support, all of our energy and enthusiasm.
Sometimes support makes money.
That goes along.
Yeah, absolutely. More than,
Well, thanks, you guys. Is there anything else you want to say to us or ask while you've got us trapped here?
Trapped. I just want to let you know that you will be seeing in the near future, or the not so distant future, I should say, some changes to the sustainable building regulations, to some tweaks in the code that we found some holes or pitfalls and that were unintended or needed clarification possibly.
So you're already working on that.
So that'll be, yeah, it kind of dovetails what we were just talking about.
Okay. And that was the only other thing I was gonna bring up, sorry I'm late. But was trying to find ways to incentivize net zero. And I don't know if you talked about this earlier, but trying to find ways to incentivize that in our code, in our, you know, master plan updates and stuff like that, trying to work towards that and see where we could go. Because it would be awesome if we as a community could figure out a way to make a lot of the new development. There's still a lot of development out there that hasn't been built, and how to incentivize potentially making that net zero somehow.
So thank you so much for all the work you're doing. I think you haven't shown enough love. We are really happy about the work you do.
I just have one more quick question. The $1,400 expense for compost on the green team,
Yeah,
what is that exactly? Is that for,
It's here.
yeah.
Is that
it's- Yeah, it's here.
just
We
for
have
the
a
town
container
building?
over here, and we use it in Sunday market mostly.
Yeah.
And then the town, all the town composting and the art base uses it. So that's what that is.
it's awesome.
Yep.
I was wondering what it would look like for the town to tackle composting. I'm sure it's a huge ordeal, but I know it's something that obviously the Picken County landfill is looking toward streamlining our solid waste, and it's just one other prong. I love composting. It's amazing. I was talking to my guy this morning. It's like, we don't have trash at our house. So I just wonder what as a town it would take to really tackle that. And I'm sure it's,
Well, the Picken County just changed their code for composting. They changed their solid waste code that requires and I think it requires the people in the town of Basalt who live in Picken County it does not? It's only-
Unincorporated Picken County.
It's only unincorporated?
Really,
Okay.
that's good.
So, I don't know, I would look at it as a way for, I'm not saying I want this to happen, because it's difficult, and it has to be a community-driven thing, and it has to be worked out through all the, waste providers and stuff like that, but if there was a way that we could look at that as a ordinance or change of our ordinances and trash collection and stuff in the town. Because it would be great.
Composting is available to anybody in the city. There are 2 providers that provide it
Right.
in scalable from 6-gallon buckets to 3-yard containers.
Wow.
So anybody who wants it now can
Right.
get it.
I have it, but it's like, you know, my biggest issue is then when all of a sudden, how do I reduce my trash bill? Because that becomes more difficult, because it's not bundled together, and when you don't have these things bundled together, you know, the fact is I compost with Evergreen, and it's great. But now I barely have a trash bag a week, but I still pay the same amount. And I know recycling is a big piece of that, and I still recycle a ton, but how do you put all that together to try to incentivize it? Because I think you'd get more people to compost if they could reduce their trash bills.
I think
All
you
of
just eat the remainder of the trash.
Yeah. All of the haulers offer a tiered pricing, the size of container that you get, you should have been offered.
Really?
If you have a smaller container, you should pay less. The challenge for hauler is that the cost of recycling is about 4 times the cost of trash to manage it. So if you do small trash, big recycling, your bill really won't go down. If you reduce and reuse, as opposed to recycle, keep your whole waste stream down, that's your opportunity to save money, if it's purely money. If you're just moving it from the trash can to a bigger recycle bin, because of the cost of recycling, your bill won't go down.
Okay. Well, that's the kind of information that I'd love to get out to people, because I didn't know it. And I'm trying to figure that out now that I compost and my trash has
Mhm.
gone down. You know, it's not as easy to see that
Where,
piece of it.
where we're seeing is those who compost and reuse, and their overall waste, don't send it to China, don't send your paper to the Pacific Northwest, find a way to reuse your product or get it without the packaging, and then compost what you can. A lot of the paper that you do can be composted, so we do that locally, or there are a number of haulers that will do that. But reduce the overall, what you set out at the curb. To move it from one pile to the other is not cost effective, it is environmentally solid, but not cost effective.
Okay, I just realized that we only have about 10 minutes for our next item, because we could talk about this all night, right?
Sorry to slow us down. I just want to plant a seed. Thank you guys for what you're doing.
Excellent.
Thank you, guys.
See you in spinning at 5:15 on Friday morning.
Yes, ma'am.
The best spinning teacher ever.
I think it's good.
At 5:15? Yikes.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm really gonna see him there.
I can guarantee you'll never see me there.
You have to stay up all night drinking, right?
Yeah, right. And go straight.
Okay, are you teaching the next one?
Yes.
Great, thank you, Doug.
Thank you guys for what you're doing.
Cheers, Dave.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, yeah. Peace on earth, green love, whatever. Okay, finance committee structure, Brian.
Yes, so,
Piece in here about that?
you should,
Awesome. Okay, I love
you see it?
the-
Second, it should be the second
Page
thing.
nine.
Oh, no, there it is, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so this is really a discussion about finance committee, but I'm also kind of rolling in another tidbit for council as it relates to all of our committees. As you know, we've been working on the structure of our committees. We've created this bylaw that we're going to ask our committees to use as a framework for kind of setting up the management, if you will, of our committees. So we've done a lot of thinking and discussing around the finance committee structure recently. So Christy and I, we called up and down the valley, talking to the communities here, but then also even reached out to our colleagues across the state and got some good feedback. Unfortunately, there's not a silver bullet to how to run a finance committee. Some of the finance committees were sort of a mix of council and citizens. Some were purely citizens, some were purely like a subcommittee of council. So really we looked to what are some of the highlights from each that make sense and what works for us here today. And so that kind of leads me to a twist in this, and I'll come back to it, but staff is going to recommend to council that our committees moving forward, and really the BPAC, Post, Green Team, BAC, and Finance, go to pure citizen committees. And we think that there's some good benefits to that, and I'll talk about that we'll we would like to give this idea a try. Because you guys are the council and make these decisions, we can come back and revisit it in a year and kind of see how it's working as just a staff-led committee. Staff, of course, will not be voting members. They're there to help as a resource, to get information, to take notes, and those kind of things, but won't be sort of actively involved in prompting discussions or things like that. We really want it to be purely citizen to the extent we can. So in this handout that we have for you, there is a draft mission in there. We're going to kind of set that aside. We have a finance committee meeting tomorrow where we'll kind of put that back on the finance committee to come up with what they believe is a good mission and their roles and responsibilities, and then bring that back to council for ratification ultimately. So a couple of the other towns that we looked at, we did reach out to Snowmass Village and chatted with them, and in their charter, they have a citizen-only committee. Down in Carbondale, they don't have a finance committee. And then in Glenwood Springs, they have a 10-member, 10 citizens and then 2 council liaisons. So as you can see, it kind of runs the gamut. So in this handout that we gave you, we kind of ran through some of the different options and ultimately made a recommendation. The first option is to not have a finance committee. That obviously, for staff, makes things a little bit easier just as far as time commitment. That would be one of the pros there because of our limited resources. But one of the cons that we've identified is it kind of puts more of the onus on the entire council body to be reviewing, policies for finance and reviewing initially the budgets and things like that we see some utility with having a finance committee. The second would be a task force. So a task force is really set up as a temporary type of committee that's meant to deal with a certain issue that council asks of a group, and once that is usually researched and the findings passed on to council, it's disbanded. And with that, it can help with some financial oversight on a specific topic, kind of gives more flexibility for council to decide what their specific needs are on a given topic. And of course, that also limits staff time a bit. But the cons is it doesn't address sort of the long-term nature. Obviously, finances for a town never stop. And so, that could be a bit of a drawback. And then the third is more of a formalized board, somewhat similar to what we have today. And that could be comprised of citizens and or council. And usually with these, in the research we did, town staff and management are always apart. They don't take an active role or have any voting in the committee setup. So as far as pros go with a committee like this, it can really help promote the council and community education around town finances. They can be complicated. It's a big subject and different than standard finances from a business. It adds to transparency and accountability for the public. And it gives council a way to have a sounding board, to have a feedback loop from the community. And it gives the council also the extra and added time to really dive into a financial issue. The one con about this is it does take some more staff time. But I will say on this one, most of our committees, the ones that I had named previously, are not attended by the finance director or myself. We've kind of delegated, or I've delegated those out, and so we do have staff availability for having a finance committee. We are recommending that we move forward with the third option, which would be to continue with the finance committee, that it be a citizen committee of 5 members. We have some basic qualifications on it that would still need some vetting through the council, but basically that you have experience in finance and that you have management and or leadership that would qualify you to really kind of tackle some of the bigger financial issues that you've experienced that in your career. A couple of the reasons that we come up with this were it allows for the entire council to provide direction, kind of like what we've done with our other committees. And so you kind of have that unified voice. It also has the benefit of giving the community a voice as it relates to our finances. And it kind of creates that standard for all of our committees. So it's a little more predictable on how they're going to run, what their communication strategy will be for feedback to council and vice versa. And then, you know, I think it can improve efficiency with the way that we're moving ahead with some of our financial issues, like setting out new policy and things, because you've taken the time outside of these committee meetings to vet that with a separate group. So that's really where we are with it. And so we wanted to get some of that feedback from you. Obviously, there's been a lot of work done on the committees as a whole. You know, I think we had some frustration on both the council side and on the committee side, which led us to create the bylaws in the first place that set a course expectations for communication and such. And so I think we're on a good track there. And we wanted to just kind of get some of that feedback. If you're all in agreement that this could become a citizen committee, we'd have to go through and announce that and do some recruitment around that. But first, we come up with the bylaws to really get those in order with the committees.
That's fine with me. I mean, I think to get the committees looking similarly and be advisory to us is what we've been talking about for months and months, so I don't know how everybody else feels.
So is there no council involvement in that then? Is there still one?
No council involvement.
Finance
And then-
director.
Finance.
Yeah, so all staff.
Yeah, so you've got the staff, but the idea really would be that we get the entire council to provide the general direction to them. I think we've got our communication strategy going, and like I said, it's something that is new for us. So I'm advocating for giving it a try. We can reassess after this year, like how it's gone. You've just heard from, I think all of the committees have now traipsed through and presented to you all, and I think that's been pretty productive so far. So that's where we are with it at the moment.
Gary, Bill?
I'm okay. I mean, yeah, I think it's you know, I've been dealing with the Financial Advisory Board for Pickens County for years, and it wanes sometimes with participation from the public, but amazingly right now it's waxing back up. So, and it's a way for the citizens to kind of give you what their priorities for their spending is and for them to understand the budget. So I'm willing to give that a try.
And I spoke with Katie. I know she's in Argentina or someplace. She's, I think, good, and she was hesitant at first, but I think when you understand the overall picture of we are supposed to be driving all these committees as a single voice, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea.
And we should have allowed more time, because now we have like a 3-minute dinner break. The time it's all
13.
Yeah. Just hustle.
Just for the record, I mean, I think it's important and a good idea to harmonize the structure, function, mission, and everything else about all of the committees, and that's a very good thing, and for that reason I will support this. But as I've commented to Ryan, and as I will comment, the role and mission of a finance committee, otherwise an audit committee, an oversight committee, is very different. And I think Christy and I were aligned on this, where the role of oversight in ensuring that the systems and controls are efficient and adequate to protect the resources, interests, and assets of the town is different than BOC or other committees. So as drafted, I think the mission for a citizen committee is great. I like what this does, because it does not imply that they have any mandate or specific charge. It doesn't imply that they will be accessing sensitive or confidential material, and so that's great for them. But I think it still leaves open the question about how we will ensure that council supervises and engages our financial management going forward when we are at a modestly precarious period, and it is somewhat contradictory that we are removing council representation on the committee that should ensure the appropriateness of systems and controls at a time when clearly, they can be strengthened more. But having said that, I support this. I think we do lose something, however, if Auden cannot participate, for instance, on Green Team, or Gary, I don't know if you've participated on those or in Post. So I think there is a little bit of a loss too. But again, I support it and will vote in favor.
I think there's definitely pros and cons. I agree with part of what you're saying, but I feel like there's a much bigger gain by the fact that individual citizens hear a council person talk and think they are speaking on behalf of the council. And rightly, I mean, why wouldn't they think that? And I think to ensure that we send one message with one voice from all of us is more important than anything else that we can do with these citizen committees. So anyway, we need to get out of here, and we can pick, we're having, our finance committee meeting is tomorrow, so
Yeah.
we can pick this
Well,
up
there was
then.
only one proviso that Ryan and I had discussed, and I think removing council from the committee, given the way the committee will be structured, is perfectly acceptable. But I have asked and would ask that we carve out more time every 2 weeks at each of our town council meetings for Christie to report and for us to be able to discuss finance, because it is also true that council does not make enough time to discuss what is ultimately very, very important to the function of the town.
Agreed.
So that would be my request.
So,
Great request.
let's grab our 7 minutes and be back here a little
Very
bit
good.
after 6.
Thank you.
There's no possible way. Basalt, regular meeting. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order and ask Pam for roll call, please.
At 6:03, let's see, Gary Kennedy.
Here.
Bill Infante.
Here.
Katie Schwer is absent. Robin Schindler.
Here.
Jennifer Whipple. Brian Scott.
Here.
And Jackie Winsor.
Here, thank you. Quickly, I just want to thank Grassroots TV for always recording our meetings, and our videographer is Ryan, as is every other name in this, almost everybody up front is named Ryan as well. If you're not watching it right now live, you can watch it on grassrootstv.org later. And also, I just wanted to mention that our mayor's coffee, my mayor's coffee, and whoever comes, is tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock at CC's Cafe. And I wanted to introduce our newly appointed Eagle County Commissioner, Matt Scher, and he will be there in the morning. Matt, would you stand up and please, if you want to say hello and how much fun you're having after like a week? We won't take very long because the kids, you know, they're kind of like number one.
Yes, well, thanks for slipping me in before the kids, too, because after the kids,
You know how
nobody
that
pays
goes.
attention
Everybody
anymore, right?
leaves after that, right?
So thanks, guys, for letting me scoot in. I am Matt Scher. As all of you know, Jill Ryan was appointed to Governor Polis's cabinet. She is now the Director of Public Health for the state, which is tremendous for our mountain community. Also had another Summit County Commissioner also appointed to the governor's cabinet. So we have 2 mountain people on his cabinet, which is really great for all of us. And particularly fortunate for me because I was selected by the committee of the Democrats to replace Jill for the remainder of her term. So that'll be through November of next year. Tremendous honor, really humbling. There were a number of extraordinary candidates, at least I think so. And I've been seeing that all over the place. Same thing happened in Summit County. They had 8 phenomenal people. And I don't know what you guys are seeing, but all over the place, we're seeing just everybody, just all sorts of people looking to get engaged in local government. To me, this is the highest level of local government, and it is a tremendous honor. And we are all the way over the hill, and that's why I'm here too, to try and spend a lot more time over in the Roaring Fork corner of our county to get to know people. So my visit here this first time anyway is really just to do that, to introduce myself, help everybody get to know me, to let them know that I am accessible, as are all the other commissioners too, and to really start a relationship that I know we have struggled with over the years with this corner of the county. So as we talked about during that process, Jackie, this is part of my fire hose, getting to know all this stuff and hopefully be able to work on our relationship to make better results for everybody in the county.
Excellent. So once again, the commissioner will be at, I almost called it Saxy's, CC's across the street tomorrow at 8 o'clock with me and maybe another Ryan. So thank you so much. And do you have a place to stay?
I do.
All right.
Thank you, though.
All right, because I was going to offer up Auden's house.
Well, that is where, I don't know if Oz knew that.
No, if you ever need a place to stay, I can help you out. So.
Sure.
Thank you so much for coming in. Have a good evening, and
Thanks
see
very
you
much.
tomorrow.
Yep, we'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, man.
Are you interested in the 5:15 spinning class in the morning?
In the morning?
Say no. Say no.
You better say no. You better say no. Okay. Okay, well, that was kind of fun. But our really, really fun part that's all of our favorites is the Students of the Month. And tonight we're going to be giving awards for citizenship. So the awards for citizenship are based on, do you share to make your school and community better? Do you cooperate? Stay informed and vote? I'm not sure what you would vote on, but be a good neighbor, obey laws and follow rules, respect authority, and protect the environment. So I am going to pass these out and see if we can, we might have more than one each.
I can read too.
That would be
I
great.
can read. I hope.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Auden, if you're not busy, would you like to start?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I get the longest one.
Oh,
Excellent. You read the best.
Emily Northrup, senior.
Is she here?
Emily, are you here?
Emily? I don't know if the high schoolers will be here. It's a tough time of year for them.
Okay, well, bye.
Don't worry, we have
Do you
extras.
have another one?
Done.
Okay. Bill, do you have?
I am honored to pay tribute to Kane St. John.
Hey, come on up!
Let me shake your hand before we even get started. Good job. Okay, Kane, I gotta put my glasses on. Kane St. John. Kane exemplifies positive citizenship in multiple ways in all areas of his day. In the classroom, he is cooperative, kind, and respectful. If you have a chance to see Kane in action, you will notice he is eager to learn from his teachers and peers by asking questions and making connections. On the playground, Kane is inclusive of others and respects the environment. You may catch Kane picking up discarded articles of clothing and returning them to the lost and found. Kane is a positive influence, and we are lucky to have him as a student at BES. Congratulations again. And this is for you. Hey, Kane.
I'm guessing this person won't be here, but you can go. Is Ty Kim here?
Ty?
Ty? Taya Kim?
Nope.
I got another. You can go.
Jack Rafe? All right. I know he's here. What's up, Jack?
Hi.
How you doing? Haven't seen you in a while. So Jack shows exceptional character in his daily behaviors at school. He is kind to all students and adults and cares about his school. He listens, participates, and encourages others through his actions and his words. He is always positive and compassionate and helps others stay positive with his overall example. Jack is a great choice for Student of the Month. Nice job.
Good job. Keep up the good work. I have Debbie Del Cid. I like your shoes.
Hi, Debbie.
Debbie shows herself consistently to be an advocate for others, compassionate towards others, respectful to her teachers in each of her classes, as well as humble and positive. Debbie is a good student who works well alone and in a team. Good word.
Oh, geez, the shoes.
I love the shoes.
Whoa, how fun is that? Jennifer Carrasco. Oh. Oh. No? My best friend's name was Carrasco growing up. Okay. Do we have any more that we didn't try for? I guess not. Okay, well, thanks.
The pool pass.
Right, the pool pass. Thank you. You're my coach. So everybody who got an award, a citizen award, will be receiving a pool pass for this summer. Even the people who were not able to make it here this evening will get one. And also, if we could ask all the families and the award winners to go out into the hallway. I think James is going to take a photo for some use, I don't know what. And that way you can also avoid the rest of this meeting. So thank you so much for coming, kids and parents.
Thank you.
But you are welcome to stay. That's so rude.
Bye-bye. See you tomorrow. Nice to meet you.
Oh, yes, these kids.
Okay, did we miss someone?
Nope, nope. That's awesome. What? Nothing.
Okay, our next item is the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that someone would like to pull off for discussion? Or is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? I hear silence.
Mayor, I move that the town council approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Let's see. I sort of missed some of those consent agenda items. Okay, the next item is a call to the public. It's where citizens who would like to make a comment to the council for items that are not listed on the agenda have an opportunity to do so, and you can have 3 minutes to make that presentation. Is there anybody who would like to do that? Items not on the agenda? Is that you? Are you gonna come up and talk to us? Please do, just come up and sit at the mic, and all you have to do is just tell us your name and tell us what you're thinking. Oh, you've got 2? Okay.
You guys can have 6 minutes. to
You
go.
can have 6 minutes, because there's 2 of you, yes. Would you like to introduce yourself so we know who you are?
Yeah. My name's Jake, and he's Ben.
Okay.
We'd like to propose a kids' table at the Sunday market in the summer, so that like kids can have a chance to like sell things. We have some reasons why.
Firstly, kids could learn how to design, create, and sell products. Secondly, kids would like to sell nice things such as lemonade and cookies. We would like to sell our homemade caramel.
Your homemade caramel?
Yeah.
Do you have any samples with you?
You'd have won it right there.
Some
Okay.
kids could use the table to raise charity. And on the other hand, kids won't want to rent for the whole summer and be there every week. So with the kids' table, they could schedule for just 1 or 2 days. And then
Finally, it would make the atmosphere of the market more fun and exciting.
thank you.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome. I have a couple of questions for you real quick. Is this something you're doing through school, or is this your own ingenious idea?
Our mom and dad, they helped us, like they found an idea for us.
Uh-huh,
Yeah, and then we're actually homeschooled.
uh-huh.
Yeah, so they made an idea and then we wrote the paragraph.
It's a great idea.
It's an awesome
There
idea.
is a nonprofit that actually you need to go to, I think, get that table. Pam, can you help
Go to
them
me.
later?
Go
Pardon?
to Susan.
Yeah.
Can you help them?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you get your phone number to Susan, she can hook up with you later in the week and help you get through that process, okay? Thank you for your clarity and
Ideas.
and commitment.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you
think that's
very
an
much.
awesome idea, and I can't wait to buy some of your caramel.
I can't
So
either.
you guys better sign up,
I'm thinking about it right
'cause
now.
I'm gonna be at that market.
All right, you guys, thank you so much
Thank you guys
for
very
coming in.
much.
Thank you.
Anybody want to try to follow that? Good idea.
We have one more.
Oh, okay. Hi there.
Hi, everybody.
Do you have any caramel?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Was that on?
Do you have any caramel?
No, I don't. Sorry. I am Lisa McDonald. I manage Picken County's Healthy Rivers and Streams program up in Aspen. And I think as Ryan might have mentioned to you last week, Picken County was officially awarded a Great Outdoors Colorado grant for $350,000 for street and side improvements at the Whitewater Park here in Basalt. So, it was a long process, and we couldn't have done it without the efforts of numerous entities here, community members. We had stakeholder groups that included ACEs, folks, Julie Kolar from your post department, Boyd and Matt from your Public Works department. We had educators from the Roaring Fork Conservancy. We had the kayaking and angling community. We had Challenge Aspen, Elk Mountain Expeditions, the Roaring Fork Fishing Guide Alliance, Chief Knott, the fire department. Everybody had some great input into it. We had a technical team of the Impact Marketing, Aspen, Blue Green landscape architects who, I think you met with Sherry Senzone and her crew. We had Quinn Donnelly with River Restoration Engineers, our contractor, our river contractor, Digging at River Works. Audit and Jen were part of the team back in, I think, last year we started it. So it took a village. So I wanted to stop by tonight and just personally thank the town for its commitment to the park, its support, and its effort throughout the grant process. Especially wanted to give out a shout out to James Lint here because he is a rock star, in case you guys didn't know that.
Yeah, James.
So I just wanted to say thanks, and you'll be seeing us soon after we get the technical details of the grant agreement worked out with GOCO and
Excellent, Lisa.
start the process.
Thank you for
Can't
taking
wait.
overtime to come do
Absolutely,
this.
yeah, thank you guys.
We actually have an item on our agenda normally of like positive comments about the community, so you
Yep.
did that already.
That's good.
You did 2 checks
Yay,
on
good.
that list.
All right.
Thanks, Lisa.
Cool, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Okay, mayor and council reports and comments. Anybody have anything they want to report or comment they'd like to make about since your last meeting? Auden?
go.
Gary? Auden?
I defer.
Gary?
Yeah.
All I wanted to say was, I wanted to thank all of the town of Basalt, like all the employees, because lately, with the amount of snow we've had and everything that's going on, it's definitely taxes government at its highest level, and I really wanted to thank you all. And with the Tabor stuff and everything else that's going on, I think our entire staff deserves some chair massages, so that's what I told Brian, so. I'll put it out there, so.
Gary's the masseuse.
Yeah, you do not.
Bad chair massage.
Bad chair, yeah.
Did you need a second? Was that a motion?
No,
Thank you, Gary.
thank you.
I think everybody
Thank you,
here
Gary.
would second that. We have a small staff, it is a small town, but we have so much going on, and as Gary pointed out, even more going on this winter. Just be thankful that we're not on the I-70 corridor where we'd have avalanches across our streets and highways as well, but who knows, right? No.
And the snow plowing all night on the weekend, astounding. So Public
Really?
Works, it's incredible. There was a fire on Homestead this weekend, and first, the family, one of the people who lives there goes to Basalt High School, and I don't know whose point on this, but making sure that they're connected to community foundation services and all. Does anyone know? Ryan, do you know if that happened or?
I don't. I do know that they had Red Cross come out to help with that short term, and usually Red Cross, in my experience from last summer, is giving them all of, sort of, we had this comprehensive list of those resources.
Okay.
I did talk to somebody today that maybe was going to be able to have a contact with them, so I'd be happy to follow up just to make sure.
Okay, yeah, that'd be awesome, because there are substantial resources.
Yep.
And then, that happened, what was it, Saturday night? And I guarantee that everyone in the town had post-traumatic stress, because you looked up on the hill where the fire started and you saw a fire. And once again, the first responders and the fire department, they stomped it. I went and looked at it, and it hadn't, the structure was still intact. So those guys got there immediately. I said to my kids were like, "What's going on?" freaking out, and the whole neighborhood was in jeopardy. But their response time, police, fire, ambulance was up there, and they're amazing.
They're amazing. Our police chief, Greg Knott, is here. Do you have anything to add on that particular item?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so-
2 things, just to comment. We were driving out for dinner at the same time that all the cops and fire engines were going the other way. And to say they did a great job is an understatement, but they were still there at around 10:30 at night, 10 o'clock at night, just finishing the cleanup, and they were, again, very, very professional. I did see something on Aspen Santa Fe Folklorica Ballet is evidently doing a GoFundMe account for the family because the little girl was part of that troupe. So that might be something to refer people to as well.
I thought that was actually a different fire, but anything else?
Yeah, on a different note, I want to thank council, and I want to again, just remember a very courageous young woman that we honored last week here, Anna Cunningham, a student at Basalt High School. And we had, and I want to thank staff for arranging the wonderful tribute. We delivered her a recognition as an outstanding young person and student. And the very next day, there was a massive outpouring of support. The Bald and Bold happened at the high school. There were hundreds of people, and many dozens got their hair cut. And very sadly, the very next day, Anna passed away. So condolences to her family, to all of her friends, and it was a tremendous show of community spirit and unity. And so I think acknowledging that is also appropriate.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
And I was gone for that meeting. I was sadly laying on the beach in Mexico. I'm sorry about that in a way. But I wanted to thank Gary for running the meeting and all of council for being here to present that award and for just doing a really bang-up job on the meeting. Thank you so much. Any other council managers report? Sir?
Yes,
Ryan Mahoney?
Madam Mayor, thank you. Just one update for you all as it relates to the Tabor issue. Staff issued a press release today. We are putting out more information and asking the community to fill out a survey so we can get some feedback to kind of give council some information to chew on and ultimately decide on a direction on how we might move with that. But the mailer does include some of the basic information about the issue. It also includes a calculator for what a potential refund would look like, and then also the survey. The survey can be taken as a paper survey. It can also be taken online, and you can access that on our website, www.basalt.net, and we'll be looking forward to getting that back. The window for filling out those surveys is rather short, and we do have spring break sprinkled in there as well, so I believe it's the 29th, thank you. The 29th of March, so we're going to ask for people to get on that survey and get it filled out. So thanks.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Okay, we have a few presentations tonight. The first one is information on RETA 1, update on the arts restricted balance. Susan Philp and Christy Hemmerich? Are
Yeah,
you-
we'll have Christy take the lead on this.
All right.
Yeah, that's fine. So this goes back quite a ways. TICA had asked for a detailed reconciliation. We went to their board meeting in January, and they always wanted to know a little bit more about that restricted arts fund
Can I just
balance.
interrupt 1 second?
Yes.
And TACA is, a lot of us know that as the temporary, it's the theater company that's out at Willits.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you. And so anyway, so Ryan and I attended their last board meeting on Monday, and so that went really well. Actually, we gave them a full accounting for the last 5 years of all of the restricted balances, the money's in as far as the properties that were sold that related to the RETAs, the real estate transfer assessments that were collected for those particular properties. We gave them all that detail, and we gave them the expenses for the arts that went against this restriction. So it was a real transparent and open process, and I think it went very well. And a special thank you to Susan and to James for all the real hard work in looking through all the property detail for 5 years. It was about a 2-month reconciliation process to complete this, but I believe the bottom line is I really believe that it improved the trust between the organizations and just improved that transparency piece. So what we've included in the packet for tonight is just the summary of that. And so pretty much it states 936,000 as the balance, and actually I found one other RETA in there, so it was 942,179 is the final number. It's unaudited, but I think we've already reconciled all the RETAs, so it should be very close. And yeah, so that, and so we've got everything taken care of there.
Great, thank you. It's stumbled along for a few years there at the beginning, so I'm sure they very much appreciate your work. In fact, I know they do. I saw Ryan at the gym. Anything else on that one? Any questions? Good to go? Okay.
Just one. You guys don't have to stay. You're welcome to, but if I were their age, I'd be absolutely dying of boredom right now. So just so you know.
This is exciting stuff.
Don't kick them out. I think their parents are having them here as a listen.
Yeah.
It's up to you. You're welcome. Okay.
Homeschooling we're doing.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's kind of what I thought was the deal,
You know,
actually.
we could get them to run for council next time.
Not if they stay for this meeting. They won't.
But good thought. Where are we? Oh, are we finished with the Rita?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is just a discussion regarding gifts to elected officials. And since we're in
Yes.
homeschooling, you might just want to make it a little clearer than you might normally.
So this agenda item was prompted by our last meeting, and it just seemed like a good opportunity to kind of review rules on gifts to elected
And I
officials.
wasn't at the last meeting,
And
so.
so, and I'll kind of get to that. At the last meeting, Scott Gilbert from Habitat for Humanity proposed a gift to each of the council persons, and we made sure that Pam promptly collected those and to review them to make sure they were compliant with the rules on gifts. And those rules kind of are set out in 3 places, and we recently reviewed these with representative from CIRSA. And so Amendment 41 to the Constitution created the Ethics in Government Law, and that basically says that elected officials can't receive gifts in excess of a certain amount. And that amount can be changed by the Independent Ethics Commission of the state, and that was recently changed to the amount of $65. On a statutory level, there's a ethics set out in state statute, and our charter mirrors the statute almost identically, and there it prevents or precludes gifts that would tend to improperly influence the faithful discharge of duties, and gifts that would be given to award official action. So those are kind of the broad rules on gifts. And to conclude, we reviewed the proposed gift from Habitat, and the intent is to return that to Habitat and not for council to accept that gift. And if you have any other questions, let me know.
Yes.
Hey, you guys, why do they have that rule? Do you know? Any ideas?
So that the people on the council aren't allowed to accept gifts from the public.
To influence our vote.
Yeah.
So if you gave us caramel, we might, we might vote to give you a table.
Wink.
No. Time out. This isn't really how it works. Okay.
I grew up in New York, and
That is how it works.
But if they get the table and then give us caramel, is that okay?
Yeah.
Well, then we have to go buy it.
The idea was actually Jake's, but we realized we couldn't have a table every week with all the children's activities. That's where the idea then came for a routine.
perfect, thank you. Well, thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff.
I didn't mean to make light of it, but.
No, that's all right.
Okay, next.
Is there anything else that I need?
Thanks for coming.
Is there anything else I needed to hit on there?
Come anytime. You're welcome.
Run for office.
Okay, could we get a motion to convene as the liquor authority?
Mayor, I move the town council convene as the local liquor authority.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Our first item is public hearing and review of an application for a new hotel and restaurant liquor license, Butch's Lobster Shack, to be located at 144 Midland Avenue. Pam Schilling is in charge of this domain.
Well, council, I thought this evening we would just kind of briefly,
Welcome, Butch.
Thank you.
welcome Butch, Robert Darden here this evening, and quickly go over the application findings that we can find as a liquor authority. Have Butch lay out his proposal for the project, his liquor license, how it's going to operate this summer, and open a public hearing, take any comments, and then council can make a decision on that if they'd like. So everything's pretty much laid out in the memo, item 8A in the packet. Planning does have some comments that we're not gonna have any outdoor music because it hasn't been requested at this time. If outdoor amplified music is desired, it requires the approval of the planning director, which has seen all of these memos. I believe he's received copies of them also. And all conditions of approval for the land use approval remain in effect over there because he has a slightly different situation. It's a restaurant without walls, basically. So it's gonna run during the summer months. The police department had no concerns or issues with the liquor license or the applicant. They did express a little concern about the width of the entryway there, so that we are gonna try and block that so no vehicles will go through during the time that the restaurant is open. Roaring Fork Rescue is giving conditional approval on several items, and we can't really do anything with them until we are closer to opening. So those items will still be conditional on the issuance of, the license issuance will be conditional on these items being cleared up. The premises are licensed and in good standing with environmental health, and all of the fingerprints came back fine. Which did submit a petition with 22 signatures on it in favor of having a liquor license issued at this location. And there are a few other conditions there that we ask the applicant per code to keep an updated copy of the state liquor and beer codes on premises, and that all owners, managers, and staff selling or serving the alcohol provide proof of some sort of training class, whether it be tips or responsible serving of alcohol. Our code says within 6 months of obtaining the liquor license, so preferably before you open. That would be our preference. So the license findings that are all laid out here, no licenses have been denied at this location. The applicant has possession of the property for the term of the liquor license. There are no municipal zoning laws prohibiting the sale of alcohol. The building on the application is not located within 500 feet of any school. The applicant appears to be of good moral character, as evidenced by the fingerprint and background check. And again, we received a petition with 22 signatures on it in favor. So, based on that, the staff recommendation would be to incorporate the findings into a motion and approve that, but there are some conditions, of course, that the applicant comply with the municipal code sections relating to the state liquor beer codes manual. They obtain the liquor training and comply with all the conditions as laid out in each of the investigating agencies' comments. And I think that's all that I had to say about that. Butch, did you have anything to say? Would you like to explain how you're going to operate this summer?
I'm going to operate the same way that I operated last summer. I'm going to be open at 11:30 in the morning and close at 9:30 at night. And we'll be there a little later for cleanup, but that's about it.
I guess you might have said this, but I missed. Is this gonna be like a table service sort of thing, so that IDs are checked, or how will that work?
You know, this year it will be table service.
Okay.
I'm extending the deck out, and I'll have waits go out, take their orders, check their IDs, and,
Okay.
yeah.
I thought that might be how it worked. Okay.
Operate from the end of May till about mid-September.
End of May through maybe the end of September,
Depending on weather.
depending on weather.
All right, thanks. This is a public hearing, so let's open the public hearing and see if anyone has comments regarding this application that they want to state. Hearing none, I guess we'll close the public hearing, go to council for comments or questions.
Mayor, I move that town approve a new hotel and restaurant liquor license for Butch's Lobster Shack, 144 Midland Avenue, Basalt, Colorado, per staff recommendations.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good luck. We'll see you
Thank
this
you very much.
summer.
Thank you.
And I guess we should stay open as the liquor licensing.
Yes, we have one more.
Thanks, Butch.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much.
Thank you.
Is somebody here for CC's? Okay.
I was expecting some sugar, but yes, someone new is here.
Okay, public hearing and review an application for a new hotel and restaurant liquor license, CC's Cafe, to be located at 104 Midland Avenue. Pam, do we need them here, or
See if anyone's out here. I'm sorry.
is that a
expected
requirement? I
CC
can't remember.
That they be here? For a new liquor license, yes.
Okay.
We have a public hearing. I handed her the paperwork Monday and a copy of the letter. We can continue, I guess, the public hearing to the next meeting if she's not present.
Well, it's early for the
Are we
agenda,
ahead
so
of
she
the
may be.
time?
Can I go run next door and see if she's there?
I can do that.
It's probably closed, right?
Yeah, they could be
I'll-
cleaning up and-
Oh.
Okay, why don't we do this?
I have a couple phone numbers. Are you gonna
It's
look?
right over.
Yeah, just go.
Out here?
Okay, let's give it about 1 minute, and then we can close the liquor license and then come back to it if she comes in and open it again, so.
At least we don't have a room full of people waiting for another item.
No,
That's when it's really awkward.
we got quiet here.
It's just
Meeting.
Greg sitting in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's just close the, we'll come back to her if she comes.
We can reopen it.
Yeah, let's just adjourn the liquor authority. Could I get a motion so we can?
Mayor, I move the town council adjourn as a local liquor authority and reconvene the town. Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, resolution 9, series of 2019, a resolution of the town suspending collection of the town's tax on the sale of cigarettes and other tobacco and nicotine products. Ryan, Christie, Jeff,
And Jeff, all of us, yes.
everybody that's left, everybody left standing
Yeah.
is on this one.
Jeff, do you want to take this?
Sure, yeah. So in 2018, the town's voters approved a tax on tobacco products. And under Tabor, you have to estimate the,
Go ahead,
You-
finish.
you have to estimate the revenue that you're going to get in your first full fiscal year. And in the event that that amount is exceeded, it has to either be refunded or there needs to be taxpayer approval to keep that amount. So the first full fiscal year of the tobacco tax is 2019. The estimated amount was fairly low. It was approximately 29,000. And based on the amount of revenue received during 2018 and already in 2019, it is pretty clear that we're going to soon exceed that amount and be faced with this predicament under Tabor. I'll pause there to just note that the Tabor question approved does allow for the town to keep all revenues generated from the tax in future years. It's just there's a secondary provision in Tabor that requires you to provide this first year estimate. And just briefly on kind of a policy reasons, it kind of cuts both ways. It's one, so taxpayers kind of know, hey, what kind of number are we looking at when we're voting on this? And then two, so it can't just be underestimated and then kept in future years, so taxpayers might be like, oh, it's not that much. So here we're facing the prospect of revenue exceeding that limitation and with either having to refund or seek voter approval. However, we have the ability to simply suspend the collection of tax to avoid the receipt of revenues in excess of that limitation. And that is what's being proposed in this resolution, to suspend the collection of the tobacco tax and direct staff to implement that with our vendors in town from April 1st on to the end of the year. And then once we see what additional revenues come in during, basically from now to the end of the month, there may need to be an additional determination as to whether there needs to be some refund in 2020 if there were additional revenues exceeded.
Okay. Yeah. So do we need to take any action, or you guys have done it?
This is, what's in front of you is a resolution to, again, there's kind of a few different ways to address the potential receipt of excess revenues. And what staff is proposing is, rather than pursue a refund on the back end of 2019, or
Right.
rather than seek voter approval, let's just not collect the tax for the rest of the year and avoid receiving those excess revenues and having to go through either of those decisions.
Okay, sounds good. Council discussion or questions, motions,
I
comments?
have just a observation, if I may.
You may.
This is just classic, another example of why Tabor's bad policy, because now we're undoing the thing we were trying to do, and you know, otherwise we'd have to, and you have to go back to the people and change the price, and it's bureaucratic waste. So just more evidence for the need for the state to deal with this. It pisses me off. It's lame.
Lame.
It's a good way to put it.
I second
Lame.
that
I
lameness.
wish Scott was here. Tabor's lame.
Wyatt's here.
Oh, why? Bob Chandler said that. I won't take credit for that one.
Okay, other comments or,
If it's any consolation, when our 3 state legislators met over at the or at the library, Carrie Donovan indicated that there was movement to amend Gallagher and similarly to amend Tabor, but there wasn't much elaboration. So,
well, and it's gotta go back to the voters
right,
statewide,
perhaps something is
so,
forthcoming.
okay, is there a motion?
Mayor, I move the town council adopt resolution number 9, series of 2019 as presented.
Second? Anybody?
Second.
I just have one quick question on this. But, I mean, what I don't like about this is that we passed it for a public policy reason, and now we're undoing it. So forget the bureaucracy, now it's affordable again, and then it kicks back. I know it's just a year. What's the time frame? From now to Jan 1?
Yep.
Or is it, it's not a fiscal year? So you all thought about, is there a way to just keep it in place and that would require a vote? But we're having a vote. And you determined that.
We've just made a recommendation to you all that we
Okay.
not put this one on the ballot.
Okay, that's all.
I would be happy to put it on the ballot, but
Okay,
I already passed it on.
is
I
this
already-
gonna be a serious discussion?
No, I already put it on, we just need a second, you vote.
No, I mean, do
Oh,
you wanna
sorry.
put it,
No,
or you wanna
I-
have a discussion about,
No, I mean, I think
Okay.
it's already been decided on the council.
well, we do have a
in the last
motion and a
meeting.
second, for sure, so,
I think it'll
if-
confuse people.
if we wanna do this, have this discussion, I think
It's only
we need
one
to
year.
put it on the agenda later.
No,
Just
but-
the
That's
second.
fine, we can
If there-
just send it through.
Well, I'm discussing this motion. That was
Oh,
all I
right,
was
right.
gonna do.
Okay,
It's just the reason why last time we talked about it and moved it forward was try not to confuse this Tabor message. It's only 1 year.
Right,
We'll
got it.
immediately go back. I would have definitely voted, put it on the ballot if we were gonna have to do this for year after year after year, but it's only the first year. So I was like, keep it simple and
Okay,
okay. It's
it's
still,
fine, I'm
I
fine.
know, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm gonna vote no just for show.
Excellent,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, so we're gonna go back to,
Mayor, I move the town council convene as a local liquor authority.
excellent,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Pam, we're back to you again. Jesus is so. Okay. Hi, Suzie.
I'm nervous. Hi, I'm sorry to
Don't
be
be
late.
nervous.
Don't be nervous.
I play 6:45, so.
You're
Is that
fine.
okay here?
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. Whichever chair you like.
Okay. Okay.
Your
It's
hair
okay.
is down, you look all fancy.
Thank you. Thanks to fix it. Okay.
All right, Pam's gonna talk, you don't have to talk.
Y'all bore you to death, you'll fall asleep before this is over. Okay, so again, we have a new, application for a new liquor license at CC's Cafe across the street. CC has indicated she would like to be able to serve some specialty drinks and hold some events, from time to time, some special events over there. And so to that end, I submitted an application for a new hotel and restaurant liquor license. She has some ideas, which I'll let her talk about in a few minutes. And again, we will go through the findings and then ask CC to make any comments and go for a public hearing. So again, the planning department notes the applicant has not requested outdoor music, therefore it's not included in the approval. If outdoor amplified music is desired, it requires approval of the planning director. Any little barrier fence, which has been requested by the police department so that we can show the premises, specifically where alcohol is allowed and where it's not allowed, does need approval by the planning department. The building department had no comments. We have no record of any issues with Mrs. Gonzalez at all. The patio area has been drawn, and Greg did ask for a physical barrier to be shown, and Cece's working on that now. So, we're in for fire rescue, we've given conditional approval based on a couple of items, one getting a key to the front door, and also obtaining at least one new fire extinguisher. And you're working with Roaring Fork Fire Rescue.
They have it.
Excellent. The licenses are licensed in good standing with environmental health. The application's complete, the fingerprint search came back with no criminal activity. The applicant submitted a petition with 39 signatures of people in favor of a liquor license at this location. And again, we would like to request that the applicant keep an updated copy of the liquor and beer codes on premises, and that all the staff, owners, managers, and staff selling or serving the alcohol obtain some sort of training through tips or responsible serving of alcohol classes. Okay, and findings, again, we have no prior licenses have been denied at this location. The applicant has possession of the property for the term of the liquor license. There are no municipal zoning laws prohibiting the sale of alcohol at this location. The building on the application is not located within 500 feet of any school. The applicant appears to be of good moral character based on the background check. And again, we did have a petition with 39 signatures in favor of a new license. We did receive today a letter, which I have shared with CC, from Lee Howie, who lives above the property. It was forwarded to council as an email and is also out on your place this evening. So we can bring that up during the public hearing. Because at this point, CC, do you want to kind of outline how you plan to operate your liquor license over there?
Well, my idea became, because I also hear from other customers that will be that nice, that space is really nice, you know, and it's very pretty. And some customers approached to me to ask me like if I have on mind to serve wine or any other drinks besides coffee. So, and I was thinking about it, and that I said, I think that would be a good idea, you know, like in summers have like others than just coffee, like because the patio is very pretty and it's pretty outside, and a lot of people is coming to Basalt now and they have to see that, you know. And, you know, and that's why I come with this idea. I was a little nervous because I'm not really involved about alcohol things. And of course, I don't want to move my first concept to have a coffee shop to be a bar. That's not my point. I just want to have a little glass of wine available, or another drinks like a mimosa or something like that, or maybe some people like coffee, maybe with Baileys or something like that. You know, that was my only idea, just to be more open for our customers. You know, I want to keep my environment like a family environment, welcome for children. I don't want to do like nothing like everybody's drinking or something like that. Okay. Okay. So I'm sorry. And I heard about the patio. At the first, I was a little like disappointed. I said, I don't want to put a fence outside, but I understand now better. So it's to mark the limited, right? Like make sure our customers understand that they are not going to be walking with the glass of wine at the street. So I've been thinking about, I have two ideas. One can be a little fence, but I have to check with the police department how high they want it. I don't want something like too high. I want something nice that you can see the coffee shop. Or other idea is maybe like some vases with some flowers or pines or something like that to make more pretty. But honestly, I'm kind of nervous because I just, you know, we get into the very nice busy season, and
I just feel like, oh my God, why I'm doing this? But honestly, I'm very positive, like everything is gonna be fine. I have the certification with the alcohol classes before, and it's valid for a couple more years. I've been taking those classes 3 times, so for 10 years, so I know how to check the IDs, see, who is allowed to serve alcohol, who is not, so you need to supervise all the time your employees. But honestly, so this is just gonna be a very nice, just a little add to the coffee shop, but there's not like a lot of things over there, it's just wine and a couple of drinks.
Got it. Okay, thank you for that presentation.
Bless you.
Thank you, thank
Okay,
you,
this is a
sorry.
public hearing. Is there anyone in the public that wants to make a comment regarding this application? Okay, hearing none, well,
We do have comments, yes.
up and over.
Chris Matera representing herself as a normal patron of CC's and not in my capability as my job. I thoroughly enjoy the salsa and bachata nights, and personally I think a little glass of wine might help my dancing. And I think what Cecilia is trying to do is great in terms of keeping it moderate but just kind of a nice cafe environment. And so I would love it if she gets a liquor license because it would make salsa more fun.
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna come one time.
You need to come.
Yes, Pam?
Also, I had an updated comment that did not get onto the memo about requesting that the applicant close the doors and windows by 10 p.m. I think we had discussed that anyhow, at 10 p.m. over there. And so that if they have an event indoors, they can continue to hold their event indoors, but the doors and windows would be closed at 10. So that noise, and that is consistent with other establishments that have outdoor patio seating and that sort of thing, similar to the Brick Pony up the street. Do you have any other comments, Susan? Okay. And then did we want to bring up Reed's comments or? So on Reed's letter, he did have some concerns as neighbors that they did support the activities, but they were concerned about any nighttime activities outdoors. And they were not in favor of any activities that would be outdoors in the evenings. They would prefer that CC keep her regular hours, except for special events inside the cafe, until 11 p.m. And so I'm not sure how we can how we deal with that, but they also request that the license should not be transferable to possible new owners, and we don't have any control over that piece of it, but.
Only special event liquor licenses are non-transferable, but all others are. They're personal property interests, and there's a process, a public process that they go through for that. Most of the things that were in this comment letter, I think were already with part of the application, like the licensed premises was consistent with what he was requesting there. And otherwise, the, Pam, I think your recommended conditions hit on everything except for the one item that you, or the 2 items that you mentioned.
Right, the closing of the windows indoors by 10 p.m. when there's an event outside. So if we could add that.
Inside.
Excuse me, inside. Thank you. If we could include that.
I always get confused about inside and outside.
What do you do in the summer?
All you people on that side of the table. Pay attention. Okay.
Otherwise, staff recommends approval of this liquor license.
Council, discussion or questions? Motions?
Mayor, I move the town council approve a new hotel and restaurant liquor license for CC's Cafe, 104 Midland Avenue, Basalt, Colorado, per staff recommendations.
Second.
Does that include what you said?
Including modifications proposed.
Okay, all right, great.
This evening.
Okay. Did you say second?
Second. Bill and I said at the same time. So.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations. Motion to come out?
Mayor, I move the town council adjourn as the local liquor authority and reconvene as town council.
Excellent. Second? All in favor? Aye. Okay, we're
Good
back
luck. You.
in.
Okay, thank you
You're
so
free.
much.
Cece, you have to stay. We may have more questions later
Oh.
until 11 o'clock
Are
tonight.
you sure? I'll stay.
She's teasing.
I'll stay, everything done. Thank you so much for this.
Cece, we're done. I'll be in touch with you then, okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cece.
Tomorrow at 8 o'clock, I'll see you.
I will see you there,
And Ryan,
anytime. All right,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Cece.
But we're still on just coffee tomorrow.
I know, well, I'll bring my own
Just saying.
tomorrow. Okay, let's see. We didn't do this one yet. Okay, Resolution 10 of the Town Council of Basalt approving an IGA with Pitkin County related to collection of the Pitkin County use tax. Christie, you're busy tonight.
Yeah, I was busy last week.
She's been busy
Putting all
all
this-
week.
Yeah, I'm as busy as something else this week, but pretty much what, Pitkin County reached out to Ryan, what was it, probably January or so, and Riggers, with some concerns and questions, in regards to their use tax. They're having a very, difficult time reconciling after the building process is already complete, after the certificate of occupancy is already done. They're supposed to reconcile their use taxes within 90 days, and they haven't received a dime, and then the builders get upset a lot of times because then they didn't have it in their budget, they forgot about it, they didn't realize that they had this 0.5% tax sitting out there. So from a customer service perspective, what we did is we looked at all of our processes around building permit fees. We talked to Susan, talked to Jeff about how could we get an IGA together with Pitkin County and work together to resolve this for our community. And this was the result of that. This IGA is to just allow us to collect the use tax so that then it's collected up front. And then we don't have this problem on the back end of them having to try to, get funding from people on the end of a project. And then all we do is pretty much quarterly or whatever that would work to with the county. Then we'd send that funding that was received as part of our building permit process to Pitkin County. And then they would still do the reconciliation on their side. So we don't believe it's going to take a lot of staff time to do that. We've already set up a separate account number, a liability account, to make sure that this is easily reconciled.
One of the unintended consequences of not collecting it is the risk that somebody building in the town of Basalt is unaware of the fee or the use tax at all. So they go down their merry way, go to build, and then get the surprise later where, a letter comes from the county after they've closed out a construction loan or what have you. And so that kind of cooperation with them just, puts it's really a public service thing in the sense that it puts the customer on notice that there's, these fees exist.
Right.
So.
Seems like a good idea. Yeah, Jeff?
I had one comment on the form of the agreement. In reviewing it after it went in the packet with planning staff, they realized that some of the timing, the timing requirements set out there may not jive. So there's a proposed amendment to that, the form of the agreement, to delete in paragraph 3 the phrase "within 90 days of the issuance of a certificate of occupancy." And so any motion to approve the resolution could also be with the amendment that I just proposed.
Okay. Council, other discussion, deliberation, motion?
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
I know that we are working towards homogenizing and collecting all of the building protocol within the town of Basalt. We've updated our planning documents, et cetera, and code. And with that, I know on our permit sheet, we keep bumping into this, that real estate is very valuable on that sheet. But I do suggest and recommend that maybe it becomes a 2-sheet thing, that the town take the responsibility to collaborate with Basalt Sanitation, Mid-Valley Sanitation, all the various different parties that our citizens and residents must interact with when doing construction. Otherwise, you really don't know who you are supposed to contact and the fees and the applications and et cetera. So if we can strive to collaborate and get that in one place, that'd be such a great benefit to our
Especially like
citizens.
owner builders,
Mhm.
or just like us.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know if you guys want to have time to ever look at that, that's a good idea.
It's on my radar already.
Okay, right, where were we?
Mayor, I move that town council adopt resolution number 10, series of 2019 with Jeff's amendment.
Second.
Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everybody. Okay, let's see. The next ones are all related to each other. It appears Resolution 11 of the town approving a grant agreement with NRCS to complete mitigation work from the Lake Christine fire and ratifying related actions and approving a grant agreement with the state of Colorado for related funding. Christy Ryan.
So I'm gonna just kick it off sort of at the 30,000 foot level, and then Christy can get into any of the minutia that's necessary. But as you guys know, we've been working on this grant through the Natural Resource Conservation Service, which is part of the Department of Agriculture. After the fire, they offer some grants that can cover 75% of the cost of mitigating for floods that can come and are a regular occurrence after a fire. So we've been working through that process, and tonight we're sort of getting the wheels in motion. It has been, I would say, an extremely heavy lift to try to get to this point and kind of wade through the federal grant process. There's been a lot of moving parts, and so we're finally here. And so a couple of the things that we're going to do, basically, we're asking for approval of the grant through NRCS as well as the state. So you guys would essentially ratify those. And through NRCS, it'll cover 75%. The state offered us an additional 12.5%. So there's a remaining 12.5% out there. We still intend to do as much in kind as we can to try to cover that. And so the second piece that you'll see sets out, it's an intergovernmental agreement between us and Eagle County, and it sets out sort of our relationship, the expectations. Some of the improvements will be done within the town of Basalt. Some of the improvements will be done in the county. Some of the improvements will be done on CPW land. You'll notice that CPW is conspicuously absent right now with an IGA, and that's not their doing. One of the spins on this is it's great to receive money in the form of a grant from the state, but that kind of muddied the waters with CPW and our relationship as far as coming up with who's going to do what and whose responsibilities, because the state has there's a statute that basically doesn't allow these different agencies to double dip. So because we've received 12.5% from one arm of the state, CPW cannot benefit from that 12.5%. So we've got to rectify that. So we'll be coming back with another one, but tonight we're dealing with Eagle County and the town, and the majority of the project takes place under those two jurisdictions. And then finally, the last thing you're going to see is a supplemental appropriation to our budget. So we're going to flow up to $1.3 million or so through our budget that wasn't contemplated when we initially adopted the budget. And so this isn't money out of our general fund or anything like that. It's money from the feds, but you still have to appropriate that expenditure. So that's really kind of the different pieces and parts from the high level. So, Christy, I don't know if you have something to add to the agreement.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. A couple things on these three that we're talking about. First, looking at the actual grant awards, just so you know, the state grant award is the final grant award that we're anticipating to get. I mean, that this is reflective of. The NRCS, the actual grant agreement documentation is not included in this packet, but the statement of work is. which is very similar to the grant agreement we're gonna see. We've already signed off on that and everything. It's just a mere formality that their system wasn't working, so we couldn't get the right information into the packet, but it's still the same grant. So I just wanted to confirm that. And we should be getting that very soon. Once we get that, then we'll be able to start work with SGM again. They've been on hold because until that grant agreement has an actual date and is assigned, then any expenditure before that, we won't be reimbursed for. So we have to be really, there's another little gotcha. So, so there's that. I wanted to take a second to say a special thank you to Jeff. That IGA with Eagle County was a bear. He and I were on the phone a lot, and he, really spent a lot of time working on that. I mean, it was really kind of handcrafted, kind of brand new concept idea, and with a lot of moving parts. So thank you, Jeff, for all the work around that. That was hours of work to pull that thing together. Just so you know where that's at, Eagle County is still working through that agreement, so there might be some minor changes that we have the ability to change those things as long as Jeff reviews them. But we're really close on getting that one done. And then thirdly is the actual, the supplemental appropriation. Just because of the dollar amount of this gosh darn grant, we just want to make sure that it's on our books for appropriation perspective from the state, because we don't ever want to go over appropriation. A really good kind of synopsis of the grant award, if you guys ever have any questions, is on page 2 of that. I put a little graph out there, Excel spreadsheet. It's got the percentages of what we're anticipating for each one of the entities, which CPW is not a part yet. We're still hopeful that they're working on some stuff on their end, so we can get them going. But that's all I have to add.
I have 2 things, I guess. One, on the IGA, we are expecting a few changes from the county, and we've seen a sneak preview of those, and on my review, none of them were substantive. So the resolution grants me the authority to make those changes, and I don't anticipate that any of them would require additional council action. And then second, I will give a shout out back to Christy. She's done a great job taking the reins on this thing and making it happen. So.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Okay, councilors, anything? Yeah.
I have a question for citizens who own private property that some of this work will be accomplished on. What entity is their point of contact?
So that's the IGA covers that, and basically what we are trying to do is make sure that if it's in the county, that the county will be their point. And that's who they'll go to. If it's in the town limits, it will be, me or Christy. And we've already received a few phone calls. I received a phone call yesterday from somebody in the county. We directed them to Eagle County. I followed up with them today just to make sure they got their questions answered and got them to the right person. So there's enough properties in the county that we just simply can't take the lead on getting those permissions. They're going to be laborious to go individually to those, knock on those doors. It's going to take staff time. It's going to take attorney time. And so we're just being really careful on sort of delegating those responsibilities by jurisdiction, and that's the point of having the agreement set up that way.
The way people find out that they're eligible for grant money is they get a knock on their door?
Anybody that's had NRCS come on their property is already aware, and I've personally reached out to everybody that's in the town of Basalt that was identified as a property in need, I'll call it. Okay. And Eagle County did theirs already. So we've already traipsed through the hills months ago and have made those initial contacts and done an initial assessment with SGM. When NRCS comes through and does those initial assessments, they're very gross level, and so our engineers will go and tweak them down. Some fall off a priority and may not get done at all, and some will rise to the top. So
Thank you for the pre-trapes.
Yes.
No doubt.
Yes,
Okay.
welcome.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Quick comment. When you talk about segregating the funds, I trust that they will be segregated both on our balance sheet and then in bank accounts. I didn't fully understand what you meant by not going over the state appropriation limits.
Yes.
And so I'm interested in that, but we don't necessarily need to take time tonight. Frank, I can have a conversation with you. The one thing I would like to add as a general comment, Ryan, if there's any way that we can get kind of an update on the post-fire kind of activities, the functions of the groups, what they're beginning to conclude, if there has been headway or progress in identifying an alternative site, and where we may or may not stand with regard to the citizens who had requested that we do lead testing for ground and surface waters, because I think it would be truly unfortunate if those citizens, again, are in a position of feeling as though we didn't respond to what I think are legitimate concerns.
Yes, absolutely. The, that group, so you're now kind of switching over to the firing range.
Yeah.
That group is, has been meeting, and the CPW is leading that group of 6 citizens, I think it is. I'm actually attending one of their meetings for the first time this Thursday. So they've been going through and coming up with ideas and vetting those, and they're going to prioritize them. And then their plan is to have that done by May, so that they can then roll it out to the public for public comment.
So Ryan, if it's possible, I know for a while they were under the cloak of silence
They
or
still have
something.
been.
Okay, well, anytime we can just get an update, you know, just to his point,
Yeah.
it would be nice.
Sure.
But I don't wanna go down that road right now.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Agreed.
No problem.
Okay, so do we have a motion or anything like that?
Jeff,
I've already picked it up for you.
I was just gonna ask, can we do all 3 at once?
They should do them separately. And the ordinance,
Sorry.
the ordinance is gonna have to go through 2 readings, so we'll have to read the title of the ordinance at that time as well.
I move that the town council adopt resolution number 11, series of 19 as presented, with huge gratitude to the state and the Fed.
And the staff, okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Do we have more stories about the following ones, or can we just have motions? It kind of all fits together, okay. If there are any questions regarding the additional items, please feel free. If not, a motion.
Mayor, I move the town council adopt resolution number 12, series of 2019 as presented.
And Madam Mayor, for the ordinance, the title of the ordinance will need to be read into the record. Just
Are you talking about 8F?
G.
for 8G?
We're still on 8F.
Okay.
You're ahead of us, Jeff.
Oh, I thought you just did the
No,
second
you just
one.
read resolution 12 into the record.
Right, so the next item on the agenda is the ordinance for.
We haven't got a second yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Do something with him.
About to get out of here.
No, he wants to go. So, did we get a second?
Second.
We did. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great.
Now
Now.
Sorry about that.
I'll just read slower. First reading of ordinance 6, 2019, an ordinance of the town providing for a supplemental appropriation for the year ending December 31st, 2019, related to the Lake Christine Fire NRCS grant. Since this is all the same, is there just a motion?
Mayor, I move the town council approve ordinance number 6, series of 2019 on first reading and set the public hearing and second reading for March 26, 2019.
Second.
Further discussion or any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that one will be a public hearing. Got it. Okay, update and discussion on the tree farm application. Consideration of referral comments to Eagle County on request by tree farm applicant to phase the Willets Underpass contribution. James.
And we've got Indy Lane here this evening with us as well, representing the applicant group. So this item is a Eagle County referral item to give Eagle County feedback with regards to the tree farm's request to phase the reimbursement payment for the underpass at Willets. At the last meeting, council directed staff to go back and negotiate with the tree farm applicant to see if they would be willing to provide concessions on commercial development related to in exchange for the reimbursement phasing for the underpass. As a result, staff met with the tree farm's representative, Dave Mars, and he indicated that the tree farm applicant would be willing to delay any commercial development until the second half of the reimbursement payment, which is about $429,000, would be paid. They indicated that they would be willing to pay the initial first half of the payment with the platting. As was noted at the last meeting, Eagle County's preliminary plan resolution included that the payment would be made for the reimbursement of the underpass with the initial platting. Staff has provided a draft letter to Eagle County that's in your packet for council's consideration. The draft letter would support Eagle County requiring the applicant to pay the initial half with the first platting, and then the second half before the earlier of the issuance of a first CO on any commercial development, or 5 years from the filing of the plat. And once again, that would be the earlier of the two. So staff wanted to check in with council to see if council supported the commercial concession that was proposed and that's included in the draft letter, or if council would like to amend the draft letter before we send it to Eagle County. So this evening, staff would recommend hearing comments from the applicant's representatives and then providing council discussion. And ultimately, staff is either looking for a motion from council to direct staff to send the letter or to amend the letter for council's direction. Indy, do you have any comments you'd like to provide?
The only comment is really this is just to the first phase is only 20% of our entire project, and it's pretty expensive right now, and delaying the second payment for our CO or within 5 years just makes it a lot easier to get this thing in the ground and moving forward. So.
Okay. So I missed the last meeting. I'm in agreement with what council discussed. Is there anybody who has any recommendations for changes, or?
I just want to say thank you to staff for reaching out to the developer group and for coming up with a solution that I think represents what we did discuss last week. So thanks to you guys, and again, thanks to you guys on your side.
Yeah.
The only question I did want to ask, and it came up last week, was about the kind of money this is, meaning when it is repaid, which it will be repaid, where does it go? Understanding is that some or all may go to the Willits Rita, which I think is very attractive because the Willits Rita supports things that we like the temporary. And so this is, I think, it's unrelated to any decision on the letter or the prepayment, but I think it offers a wonderful opportunity for us to support the arts without causing a budgetary impact, if you will.
Can we just quickly?
We can give a brief little summary on it because we haven't finalized all of that yet. So we're going through to reconcile that. But it does look like there's a portion of the reimbursement that would go back to RAFTA. That's a smaller amount. A portion of it would go back into the RETA 1, but not on the TACA side, on the public improvement side, which there's flexibility on how we use that. And then another portion of it, I believe, was into post, correct? And so those are the three different pots of money that we've identified so far. Am I leaving one out?
Nope.
Yep.
And thanks to Susan too.
And so we'll bring that information back to you, obviously, once we reconcile.
You need another almond joy. All right, any other questions? Is there a motion?
I have a question, just to clarify, how long has this money been outstanding or just out there?
2014?
Well, we started spending money as early as 2012,
Design
and then through 2015, I think it was. Mhm.
Okay. Anybody else, or is there a motion?
What did you say you need?
Need a
A
motion?
Motion to send the letter.
Yeah, that basically says,
Well, just says council direction, but.
Just motion to send the letter as
yeah,
drafted. and
there's
that would be
normally,
fine.
walkthrough for the council to read.
I make a motion that council direct staff to send the letter as written.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good to go. Thanks, Indy.
Thank you, guys.
You bet. Okay. We down to the ending parts of our
Strategic plan.
resolution, okay. Oh, right, okay. The next item is a resolution of the town council adopting the Town of Basalt Strategic Framework. Brian?
Yeah, so if you remember, last August, we all got together, sort of mid-August, I think it was, and talked about a strategy moving forward. So we've put that into the form of a strategic plan or a strategic framework. As you can see up on the wall, actually, those are quickly becoming outdated, and most, if not all, are able to be checked off at this point. And so the desire was, yes, there are certain tasks and action items that we want staff to take care of, but we need a general direction so that ultimately we understand which way to point the ship. And so that work started in August. We did a subsequent meeting where we kind of refined some of that work about a month after that, sometime in September, I believe it was. And then I continued to refine a bit, got some comments from you all after that, and then ultimately was able to put this into the format that you see today. This is, as it states in the introduction, meant to be really a living document. It's something that we can revisit every 2 years or so, or at whatever pace you all decide, but it really acts as a guide for us when we're making decisions, when we're going through the budget process, and responding to citizen requests, things along those lines. So, ideally this gets tattered pages because it's being used and is one of those documents. One of the things that I would state is this is really meant to be a council document. You all came together, we had a couple new members, and it was a brainstorm that came from those initial discussions to say, hey, where do we want to take this town? What do we think as the elected body is a good direction? And I think that's where we landed. We also have in there a set of values that we worked on as staff, and then I brought those to you all as part of this process as well. So that got included. So I think, it certainly sets out a pretty bold track for getting things accomplished in the town. I've got a few comments already. I did speak to one of you today and got just a few minor tweaks to it. But with that, I'm happy to take any comments or suggestions for moving forward.
I just had some quick thoughts. You and I have talked a little bit about how do we keep this thing alive, and I know it's tied to the CIP and budgeting. One thing I thought when I was just going through this is that I don't know how we decide what we do first, second, third.
For which?
It's not prioritized. I don't know by looking at it, how do we we went through a gyration, and that's how we came up with that, right? So, I would think that we need to do that again when the list kind of dwindles away, because otherwise, like I said, I look at this and go, oh my God, there's so much here, some's expensive, some's cheap, Some's a real priority for the council and the town, some is less. So just that prioritization thing, and when could certain things happen, and how, I guess I'm looking for, maybe not in this document, but another one, how does this happen and what priority is it?
I think it would be easy enough to put a, update the task list with a more current task list, and those will be coming off of these action items.
And then the other thing that I really like is the value statement. And I'm wondering if there is a way for us to work with each other, or us and, like, say, the department heads on some quarterly basis or something, just to reinvigorate these values, because quite honestly, they mean a lot, but there's no connection to the CIP, the budget, or us with these. So, I mean, I would give that to you to think about how, and since it was done by, I think, the department heads, the staff, it would be nice to spend a half hour every quarter or an hour in a work session, just renewing our vows, if you will.
Sure.
Yeah, Gary.
Overall, I love it, and to me, it brings a strategic focus. All of our work plans for the year should be based on the strategic focus,
Right.
and then, through that work plan or the task plan or whatever we do, that's the prioritization on this, but it needs to relate back to this somehow, some way. And the only thing I wanted to make sure that we also did was, when we could say parks and trails, we're open space parks and trails. That's the, because we only say parks and trails, but it's, the post committee is open space parks and trails.
Right.
So we just
Absolutely.
need to,
Okay.
we need to add that. And the only thing I was also, when we were in that big discussion about this, we talked about growth and sustainable growth, and how to, I have a thing as update the town's master plan. Wasn't there something in there, I might not need to look at the thing, it's just something about sustainable development, not in terms of green, net zero type development, but in the growth related pieces, that we should be looking at opportunities to, for sustainable growth, but reducing growth by keeping, not necessarily saying urban growth boundaries, but looking for opportunities to preserve our agricultural lands and sustainable agriculture next to our town. I thought that was part of what we talked about that day, and I might have forgotten.
So one of the ideas on that was, we kind of added in here the importance of the built environment, and had some of those overarching ideas that can lead to that. But I think the master plan is really where the rubber meets the road.
Okay.
on really developing that idea, and that's going to be very specific as to what it is that that we see as the future for Basalt in terms of growth, and it all I think that kind of addresses that. I mean, it would be
I was just
easy
trying
enough
to, if Eagle County looks at this, we want to be able to get Eagle County and Picken County open space dollars to help us with the reduction of growth and the protection of our natural environment. So somehow, some way relating that back there, because the post committee is going to, when they propose projects, they need to meet this strategic framework. And we just need to be able to connect it back. So that's what I remember talking about. And so I just wanted to make sure that was included, because, not that Eagle County and Picken County and all the others are gonna really look at this, but we can, and we can make sure that our expenditures go to that.
And I think it could fit in the built environment somewhere.
Yeah,
Or
no, it
unless
was
you think we
definitely in there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, Ryan, that is, like, that strategy needs to guide the master plan, so it should be in here, and it could simply be under built environment. I think we agreed that protect green space around the community and encourage density in the core as opposed to sprawl on the outside, right?
Okay, yeah, that's kind of where we were.
Yeah, I would say so, and if there is some way to relate capacity to this deal, like we only have a certain capacity in this whole valley, and we don't want to overrun our part.
And I have more, if I may.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There were a couple things I saw in here. I like the idea that it's a living document, but a couple things struck me. Under built environment, the goal is to create a well-designed community that is uniquely Basalt. Really, it's to create a well-designed, sustainable community. And if someone saw that, they'd say, oh, these guys are gonna build a well-designed community, but it could be crappily built, it could be inefficient. And
Where is that on?
just the
Built
goal,
environment.
the
The
goal
green page.
under built environment, and maybe I'm nitpicking, it says environmental and economic values, but we really want more than a well-designed, uniquely Basalt community. We want it to be sustainable.
Can we just do that one wordsmith?
If it's
I
okay
agree.
with everyone.
Sure.
Is it okay with
I'm
everyone?
continuing on that, local economy, a vibrant and diverse economy, that probably includes what we're getting at environmentally, so I'm okay leaving that. But then when you get to environment, two things. The statement is, we support common sense investment, blah, blah, blah. That's code for not doing anything radical, and it should be gone. Common sense should be gone, because actually we have to do things that are almost nonsensical.
I totally agree. Does everybody agree it shouldn't be common sense necessarily, restricted to common sense, whatever that is?
If it's not in there, we're still gonna be commonsensical.
We gotta have a
Maybe
head,
not.
we need a head nod on this to
You maybe.
wordsmith, I think. Is everybody okay with eliminating common sense?
And then just one other
I didn't
Slight-
see my head nod, let's
Yes.
wait. Yes, okay.
slight modification. In our goal, we say to preserve and protect the natural environment, and then under it, we talk about climate, but conventional environmental language is to preserve and protect the natural environment. We've arguably already done that. And we need to add, I would say, and climate system, and climate. Because we're trying to be a modern, progressive, cutting-edge town, and this language is from 1970s environmentalism.
Okay, specific words then
Well,
again?
Can I bring up one thing along those lines under the action item, which is the second one down, was to provide climate leadership through strategic investment while being a model for other small towns, so kind of taking that on. So, I think that's in part addressed. We can certainly add that to the goal, something, a statement of,
You just say,
and climate.
protect the environment and climate. It says now,
And climate, yeah.
preserve and protect the
Yeah.
natural environment.
That sounds good. As long as.
Anybody have a problem with that?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Any other, last wordsmithing?
Just thanks and praise.
Thanks and praise.
Thanks and praise.
I like it.
Jeez.
It's,
We are
it's really good.
I
Came
know
out
I've
really good.
Yeah.
spoken to Ryan and you guys have heard me, but I think this is an awfully important document. And I read the preface carefully, and as a living document, it will change, it will evolve, but it is so important and so timely now when we launch into the master plan, when we solicit public input on other things, when we're trying to kind of march boldly. This is just great. And I also had to add, I think Gary and Auden, when we had the last conversation and you guys were throwing out all the words, I think you did an incredibly elegant and masterful job of including all those words in the cloud at the base of each page. I thought that was great.
So cool.
So, thank you.
Is there a second for the, what was it you said, thanks and
Praise.
praise? All in favor?
Yay.
And just to say, not to go on because we're getting out of here pretty
Well, we
early,
do need a
otherwise.
We do need a motion.
I'm not gonna,
She's not ready for
I'm
it
not
yet.
ready, I'm not ready.
She
for
hasn't
that.
done her thanks and praise
I
yet, Pam.
haven't-
Give her a chance.
Right.
calm.
No, but I just wanted to say, this amount of stuff that our staff has waded through in a short time is unbelievable to me. Unbelievable to me. I just think 2 or 3 people, a half a dozen people are just doing a huge amount of work. and thanks and praise. Okay, yeah, we do need a motion.
Mayor, I move the town council adopt resolution number 13, series of 2019, as presented with the changes supplied by Autumn.
And others.
And others.
And others.
And others.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Do you want,
Oh, no, that was a,
oh, okay.
no. Yeah.
Amen, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, great. Thanks, everybody. Whew, we are hereby adjourned.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody.
Very good.
Thanks for coming.
Not gonna be there.